Welcome to the Phil Steele Plus tour for week 7, for Saturday, October the 11th. I've got up for you today 5 selections and 6 quick hitters, plus even an NFL play for you. Those quick hitters on a nice 8-2 run over the last 2 weeks. Let's get to your first game. Jump right into it, and we'll start off with the Old Dominion here against Marshall, and this is my YPG versus opponent average play. And so let's explain that. Now, right over here, what these numbers mean. And once again, the purpose of the tour is to show you, everyone that uses Phil Steele Plus, how to use it to its fullest. I try to show you as many features as possible. Can't show you every feature on Phil Steele Plus. This thing's limitless. It's got a ton of stuff to it, but I think you'll find these features very usable and also give you free winners. And that's my main goal each week, give you those winners. All right, so taking a look here now, what these categories mean is an example here against Indiana. They had 116 yards above opponent average. So that means they gained 314 yards for the game. That means Indiana in all their other games is only allowing 198 yards per game. So they were 116 above their average to get to 314. As an example, this one here, and these numbers down here do not include the FCS games. Naturally, when you play an FCS opponent, you'll probably be number one. And what these rankings mean is, and you can see here, Old Dominion's had the top offensive performance against each defense they faced this year. And defensively, they had the top performance here, top here, top here. Worst one of the year was Virginia Tech. But as a side note, in the Virginia Tech game, they led 28-0 at the half. Virginia Tech got a bunch of late scores in the game. You see here 2 late scores. So to sort of skews the stats a little bit, I understand this minus 90 because they gave up a couple of late scores. We can't take that out of there. But on the season, they're gaining 171 yards per game above what their opponents normally allow, and they're holding opponents to 56 yards below. If you take a look at Marshall, you see a lot of red over here. Against Georgia, for example, they gained 207 yards, but Georgia, against all other opponents, has given up 340 yards per game, so that's 133 below. Same thing here on the defense. So if we take a look, I'll take you to the Phil Steele Plus menu for a minute and get to this category, which I'm showing you, which is the YPG versus opponent average. We'll click on that here. This adds them both up together. And so we'll take a look for Old Dominion. You see Old Dominion's all the way up here at number 14. They're plus 227 combined yards above what opponents allow. And then they're taking on Marshall this week. Marshall's all the way down here somewhere. Number 123, they're minus 132 yards below what opponents normally allow. So it's a off YPG versus opponent average. I like this chart because it brings it out. You see right now Indiana's number 1, Ohio State, Alabama, Missouri, Texas Tech. That's all very interesting. And then to add to it, sometimes, if you played a tough schedule, you may have weaker numbers than a team that played a really weak schedule. So I check the strength of schedule. And if we do that, Old Dominion actually comes in number 71. Not a super tough schedule, but for a group of 5 team, that's good. So you would expect Marshall, with these really weak numbers, has taken on a much tougher schedule, right? Actually, amplifying the numbers is the fact that Marshall's only taken on the number 124 schedule. So Old Dominion's got these great numbers in the YPG versus opponent average and have taken on the much tougher schedule. I love it because that's an amplifier. And amplifying this play even more, let's go to your schedule predictor. And the schedule predictor last week went 9-5. Best category, one of the strength of schedule went 10-2-1 last week. I like that. The revenge plays went 2-0, and they're getting back into form. They actually started out slow this year, but 100 wins, 52 losses over the 3 years. You got 11-4 here for the plus minus power ratings. The last 4 weeks, AGG was 2-3. I'm sort of forcing those a little bit right now, but they'll really come into play pretty soon. Technical plays, there was only one last week and won 1-0. And the weakest category was this one here, met last year's score. So if you take a look at last year's score, switch in the home and away factor. Just 4-11 last week, 27-27 on the year. But best bets overall 9-5. You know there were 14 best bets this week in this category alone. You can use this as your category. You could just say, hey, I'm just going to use the strength of schedule category because it's 121.86. I'm just going to use the revenge category. Best bets are in green, and the yellow means it's a half best bet, almost a best bet, but not. And in this category, you see Old Dominion, and let's go click back on the team page here for a minute and get Marshall back up. So we're going to get Marshall over here on the right. You can see that Marshall's playing to an AGG of 91.1. And once again, the AGG has nothing to do. There's no starting grade on the AGG. The average game grade only takes into account your opponent's strength and your yards, your points for the game, and then your yards rushing, yards passing, both offense and defense. It adds that up. And so once again, if Ohio State put up these exact same numbers here that Marshall is, they would have an AGG of 91.1. Doesn't matter what the team is, so there's no bias in this. It only takes into account your opponents and what you do in the games. Anyway, there are 91.1, and there are 115.7 in this one. So if you look at the schedule predictor and add that up, add in the home field edge, it's ODU by 21 or by 21.1, and the plus minus power ratings have them by 21.5. This is a 3 best bet, and you might look at this and actually it's a 4 best bet. 1, 2, 3, 4. I added it up wrong. That's a 4 best bet, so that should be a 4. I'll correct that on the schedule predictor. I usually fiddle with the schedule predictor the next 2 days, fine tune it, make sure I catch any problems that was there. This is actually an ODU 4 best bet. And once again, the best bets went 9-5 last week. This is your overall best bet record, and then these are the each individual ones. So this is really a play that's got a lot going for it. We're going to go with the Old Dominion minus 14 over Marshall. Now, every Wednesday morning, I do a podcast with Stephen Hartzell and Wayne Cook, and you check that out on Learfield. And every week, Wayne asked me for off-the-radar play. And so last week I gave you that off-the-radar play, which was Akron, a very solid winner. And let's take a look at that Akron game for a minute. I know a lot of you didn't follow it. Just take a look at what happened. Akron was plus points last week against Central Michigan at home. And I put that one out here on the tour. Look at this. Akron led 28-10. Central actually scored all this late to make it 28-22, so dominated the score even more than expected. Now this week we're going to take a look at Kent State on the right, and this is a battle of titans. I know every talk show has talked about this matchup all week long. Massachusetts against Kent State. Massachusetts comes in 0-5, Kent State 1-4. And here's the amazing thing here. This is a Kent State team. If you go back and take a look at the last 3 years, they've only beaten Merrimack this year. They did not beat a single opponent last year. They were a horrific team last year, worst team in the FBS. 2 years ago, they only beat Central Connecticut State. So the last time they actually beat an FBS opponent was 2022. So you might be asking yourself, Phil, how the heck can you take Kent State minus 2.5 over UMass? How can you favor them over an FBS team? Well, here's the reasons why. First of all, they have taken on a killer schedule this year. Look at this, at Texas Tech, at Florida State, at Oklahoma. So that's part of the reason that they're losing their games by 29 points per game, being outgained by 248 yards per game is the ridiculous schedule they have faced. They have taken on the number 9 toughest schedule in the country. Once again, we'll head over here to the menu real quick and take a look at the toughest schedules. We have them all broken down for you right here, strength of schedule. And you see Kent State is number 9. UMass is, let's see where UMass is. I had them as 63. Oh, there they are, 63 schedule. So they've taken on the much tougher schedule this year. Got that going for us. Let's click back there. Go to team pages and go to Kent State. And Kent State's over here. All right, now the Buffalo game. This stands out to me. They only lost to Buffalo 31-28. And look at this. I was watching this game, and Kent State actually led 28-24. And Buffalo scored with 1:03 left, a 22-yard touchdown pass with 1:03 left to pull out the win. So they almost beat Buffalo. And here's a tricky thing that we haven't really talked about. I've talked about the AGG. We'll talk about the last 4 weeks AGG, which is really going to start cooking next week because we can eliminate 2 games. You're only dealing with the last 4 games. Really tells you who's in the best current form. But we also have a conference AGG. And you see Kent State has played, yes, they've only played 1 conference game so far, and they've only played 1 conference game. But in conference games, Kent is playing to a 84.2 level. And UMass, it doesn't show it here, but if you go back up here, it's a 77.2 level. I'm not sure why it doesn't show it here. I'll have Todd look at that on the UMass conference. Average game grade it's got a blank spot there. Probably had something to do with the fact UMass was an independent last year, and maybe that's not updated there. But a 77.2 is their game grade. So that right there would say Kent State in MAC games alone should be favored by 10. Which I like. I also like the job that Matt Carney's doing. Last year, this team was non-competitive. Look at this, just a sea of red. There wasn't anything good about this team last year. Nothing. Look at all that red. Red is bad numbers, and that was a team full of bad numbers. Less bad numbers this year. In fact, less bad numbers than UMass. I thought they were competitive. They actually covered against Texas Tech. They covered against Oklahoma. They almost beat Buffalo, and they did beat Merrimack. So this is a Kent State team that Matt Carney's got playing really good this year. The average game grades for the MAC say that they should be favored by 10 in this game. So I'm going to take, and by the way, the last 4 weeks also say they should be favored, 80.6 to 75.0. We're going to take Kent State minus 2.5 over UMass as the Stephen Hartzell play. This next one is pretty interesting. And I'm going to call it my change my mind technical play. And the reason for that is my blush reaction, my first reaction, and my Monday reaction. On Monday, after Virginia Tech lost last week, they lost to Wake Forest. You thought if they beat Wake Forest, maybe they have a shot at a bowl. But after losing to Wake Forest last week, that's a game I believe they led. Right here, okay, it was 14-10 Virginia Tech, and right here with 2:40 left in the half, Wake Forest settled for a field goal, which would have made it 14-13, but Virginia Tech called for a late hit out of bounds, gave them a first down, they ended up scoring a touchdown, then they got the ball back and scored again on a touchdown, and really changed the game in the final 2 minutes of the half, and I thought, well, that's going to take the life out of Virginia Tech. They're 2-4, but the more I looked at this game, there's a lot of factors that say, hey, maybe play Virginia Tech in this one. And it's a technical play. I believe I have it here on the schedule predictor. Let's take a look here. There it is. Virginia Tech's a 5 play. First of all, these 2 categories, which was last year's final score. What was last year's final score? Tech lost 21-6 at Virginia Tech last year. So as you see, that means they lost last year. Virginia Tech lost by 15 on the road. And so if you take away Virginia Tech's 3-point home edge and add that 3-point home edge to Georgia Tech, that means they would have lost by 9 at home last year as opposed to 15 on the road. Same thing with the spread on the game. VT should be favored according to that. Georgia Tech only had favored by 3 in the preseason. Georgia Tech Action Network only had favored by 0.4. And then the technical play, and let's get to it. Why is this such a large technical play out here? Well, first of all, the thing I think of when I think of Georgia Tech is they are good as a dog. They are great as a dog. In fact, make them an underdog against a ranked ACC team, they win the game outright. But they struggle as a big favorite. Didn't cover here against Temple. Didn't cover here against Wake Forest. So they struggle in the big favorites role. If we take a look at the favorites in the last 5 years, look at it, 0-2-1, 1-5-1, 1-8-1, 2-11-1, 5-13-1 as a home favorite. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a home favorite. And we do have right here in the Phil Steele Plus menu, just click on it right there. We do have the college ATS logs, so we can see what Georgia Tech's doing as a home favorite this year. And we'll go to Georgia Tech. Home favorite. They did cover against Gardner-Webb. Did not cover against Temple. And Wake Forest, that was an away favorite. But they struggle in the favorite category. The great as a dog. Okay, that's 1. Okay, 2. Let's take a look at, put Georgia Tech back up over here. Take Virginia Tech over here. Now, when you click down here on the team name, it gives you the series history. This is the last 28 years matchups. Take a look at the home team in this one. Now, if the word is win, that means that the team won outright. You don't have to come over here and look at the score. You don't have to try to figure out who the home team was. This does it for you. If it is red, that means that the home team did not cover. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. In the last 14 meetings, was that right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. Last 13 meetings, the home team is 2-11 ATS. This over here is a really interesting category. This is the upset category. So once again, you don't have to look at the spread. You don't have to look at the score of the game. How many upsets have there been in the series? In the last 10 meetings, 8 upsets. So this is, no matter who, you could see the difference in red and green. If it's green, that means that Virginia Tech pulled the upset. If it's red, that means Georgia Tech pulled the upset, because this is the Virginia Tech page. If we came over here on the Georgia Tech page, you would see the greens are in a different spot because they pulled the upset. The reds mean they lost as the upset. So this is one where basically the road team pulls the upset 8 of the last 10 years. That's a pretty strong technical factor. And then something else I want to show you. The interim head coach is now Philip Montgomery for Virginia Tech. Now, Philip Montgomery was at Tulsa. You might be like, I don't know what years he was at Tulsa. I don't know what the spread record was. I just remembered that at Tulsa, he was a good away dog. So let's go ahead. Go to Tulsa for a minute. Do you remember what years Philip Montgomery was the head coach? You don't have to. When you click on the last 40 years results, come down here to the bottom. This tells you who the head coach was each year. So Philip Montgomery was the head coach of Tulsa from 2015 to 2022. I find this invaluable. Makes it easy to look things up. All right, so now we've got that, 15 to 22. Now we click on Tulsa, straight up in ATS records. Away dog. So here's 15, here's 22. So what we can easily do is for the away dog records, take away the last 2 years. The last 2 years, they are 4, 5, and 2. So if you subtract that, you got 23 wins, 9 losses. 23-9 Philip Montgomery is as an away dog. So you have a poor home favorite. You have a great away dog coach in Philip Montgomery. And how about this? Let's go back to Virginia Tech for a minute. You may not remember because last week's loss, everybody just remembers what happened last week. But 2 weeks ago, this same Virginia Tech team went into NC State, Philip Montgomery, away dog, and guess what? They pulled the upset. They didn't just pull the upset. Look at this. They had a 406 to 299 yard edge. So Monday, I'm like, I like Georgia Tech. But now, after going through all of this, I like Virginia Tech. So that actually changed my mind. It's a technical play. It's a play here on the schedule predictor as well. One of the 14, I believe it's one of the 14 best bets. Yes, it is. One of the 14 best bets this week. Virginia Tech plus 14.5 over Georgia Tech. All right, now one quick note for you, and I really appreciate you guys taking this tour. So I've got just a tremendous deal for you guys. I want you on board. I want you on board for Phil Steele Plus, all right? What if I told you you could become a Phil Steele Plus member? It's $99 for the year. You could get Phil Steele Plus for the rest of the year for $79. That's a great deal, right? But guess what? I am giving you inside the press box. And I told you, my computer heats up. Every year, let me look at the battle is on here for a minute. I led after September. Guess what? The last 2 years I led after September. And then my computer just heats up October, November. In 23, it finished 17-7. Last year, it finished 19-11. And this year, 3-1 again last week. The computer just heats up. Once October turns around, the computer's got all its information gathered for the year, current year, not just based on past years and up downs and all that. And all of a sudden, it heats up. So over the last 3 years, to finish off the year, the computer's gone 39-19. So you got to love what the computer's about to do. There are 9 weeks left of best bets from the computer during the regular season. That takes you through the first week of December. Now, right now, if you go to Phil Steele Plus, and I'll show you right here, or go to philsteele.com, go to the store, you can see that the current prices for inside the press box is $169 for the college, $169 for the NFL, $269 for the the bundle. But I appreciate you guys taking the tour. So today I'm going to give you 53.3% off the current prices. You can actually get every issue of the College Inside the Press Box through the rest, all the way through December, the start of December, the conference championships, for $79. That's 53% off. Plus, you get Phil Steele Plus for free, another $99 value. You can get the NFL. The NFL had another winning week again last week. Craig, our NFL guy, doing a tremendous job this year. Another 2-1 week last week. And right now it is $79 for the rest of the year. Postseason, $42. And a bundle, which is both college and pro and postseason, all three combined, it's $269. You get it for $125, over 50% off, and each single press box subscription gets you Phil Steele Plus for free, a $99 value. You could be playing around with Phil Steele Plus like this, like we do right here on the tour. Look up all this stuff yourself. Find a game you want to analyze, break it down. You have access to Phil Steele Plus the rest of the year. You have access to the schedule predictor the rest of the year. And you get the great newsletter for the rest of the year. I'll talk more about the newsletter later, but write this code down, Computer9. Plug it into any of those three, and you get them for the rest of the year and Phil Steele Plus. All right, so let's get to our next game, and it is the last 4 weeks AGG. Once again, there's not a huge difference right now because most teams have played 5 games. If you eliminate the first one, you still have the majority of the games are the same. But I've squeezed one in here. I'm forcing them a little bit. Next week, it'll be much better because you're eliminating 2 of the 6 games, and now it's just your most recent. And some teams started out the season hot, or some teams started out the season slow, and it's completely different. Now, I just made a mistake here. I put Kansas on the right and Texas Tech on the left. I'm not even going to look at that. I'm going to put the right team on the right. Texas Tech's the home team, and we're going to put Kansas on the left. We're going to put Kansas over here on the left. Now, this is an AGG last 4 weeks play. You see with Kansas, you eliminate 2 games, a 112 and a 103. Over the last 4 weeks, they're only playing to 104.7. Now, Texas Tech actually started off with an FCS team. It didn't matter. They won 67-7. As explained, the AGG takes into account the strength of opponent. They played Arkansas Pine Bluff. So even though, look at this, they beat Utah by 24. They beat Arkansas Pine Bluff by 60. They had a 433-yard edge against Arkansas Pine Bluff. They had a 221-yard edge at Utah. But the average game grade gave them 141 for beating Utah at Utah by that, with that kind of yardage. And even though they blew out Arkansas Pine Bluff, because it was Arkansas Pine Bluff, only 110. Has nothing to do with Texas Tech, only the opponent and what you do. So anyway, look at the last 4 weeks. They're playing at 129.2 level. They're playing at 104.7. So if you add in the home field edge, and you can look in the magazine for what we'd add in for the home field edge, you could see that Texas Tech over here. Do I have Texas Tech on here? I didn't put this one on. Okay, well, let's add it up in our heads. I believe it's a 4-point home field edge for this one, for Texas Tech. And so if you added 4, it's 133.2 to 109.7. That's a 0.5 in there. It's like 29.5 would be on Texas Tech. And they're only a 14-point favorite. So you've got a massive edge here on Texas Tech, a 129.2 versus a 104.7. They should win the game by 28.8. It must be a 4.5 home edge in the magazine. Also, take a look at the conference forecast. They're playing at 137.3 level in conference play, and they are playing at 108 level in conference play. So that would be Texas Tech by 33.1. Tech is a 14-point favorite here. The AGG loves Texas Tech. It's the last 4 weeks AGG play this week. I think there's only 4 or 5. Next week there'll probably be 10 or 11. Make sure you check that schedule predictor out each week. But this week's play, take Texas Tech minus 14. All right, let's get to your schedule predictor game of the week. And I clicked off it, so it moved up there again. We're going to put Hawaii on the right, and we are going to put Utah State on the left. Let's see what we got going on here. Utah State's over here on the left, and we're going to put Hawaii on the right. I call it the schedule predictor game of the week. I pick one of the best bets, 14 best bets this week. and Hawaii comes up as a 2.5. Now, why a 2.5? And look at this. You got 5 best bets and a yellow. Why is this a 2.5? Well, this category here, yeah, the same one that went 4-11 last week, likes Utah State. And this category here, schedule strength, likes Utah State by a half. So that's 1.5 on Utah State. Meanwhile, Hawaii is playing with revenge. They lost last year as a favorite. To be a 3 revenge play, you have got to have lost to the team last year as a favorite. If you always lose to a team, it's not revenge. It's just getting your butt beat every single year. But a true revenge play is you lost to the team last year as a favorite, and that's why it's 152 over the last 3 years. Also, the situation. Hawaii at home. In this one, they get a situational edge. I do an ABC thing each year. Which are your important games, which are not. And this one came up more important to Hawaii than it is to Utah State. My preseason line on the game was Hawaii -6. The current line is Utah State -1.5. Utah State's favored here. And if they met last year, you could see Hawaii was favored last year, and they lost, and they got blown out outright. So anyway, that's 4 things working for Hawaii, 1.5 for Utah State. That's why it's a 2.5 out here. It's Hawaii by 2.5 on the schedule predictor. Something else I want to point out. If you examine this game a little bit closer, let's take a look at the quarterback stats. Just click on the individual leaders. And by the way, all this stuff, if you look on Phil Steele Plus, you can go back and do all your research for wherever. You got red, green, you got individual stats, you got everything you want on every single team every year. We don't delete this stuff. We spend so many hours putting this stuff on there, we don't delete it. So let's take a look at the individual stats. Now, the quarterback for Hawaii is Micah Alihado. Alihado was playing against Stanford, got injured in the second half. You go to this Arizona game, he was hobbling around the field in the first half and then just couldn't do it anymore. Came out in the second half. They went with Luke Weaver against Sam Houston, Luke Weaver against Portland State. Now, Alihado did return against Fresno State. Unfortunately, in his first game back, he threw 3 interceptions, 2 of them in the fourth quarter, which were pivotal in the loss. Now, last week, Alihado, much like he was in the first half against Stanford, was finally 100%, 35 of 47, 457 yards, a 3-0 ratio. So we have a 100% Micah Alihado here. You've got the numbers back it up. We are going to take Hawaii plus the points in this one. And as mentioned, the preseason line, let's see what that's doing this year. 9-4 last week. I put the numbers up here, my preseason line on every game prior to the year. And a lot of times there's value. You know, people only react to what's happened the last couple of weeks, and you get some hidden value. I thought Hawaii would be a 6-point favorite in this game in the preseason. Not a lot's changed. Like I said, the reason for this downturn, the Arizona loss, was Alihado was hobbling around. The non-great, I mean, they did beat Sam Houston and cover. Portland State was not a great game, but they didn't have Alihado. The 2 interceptions were crucial in the loss to Fresno State. They actually had a 20-16 first down edge there, and then they blew out Air Force. So with a healthy Alihado, I think they'd be favored, and that's what the preseason line is. You could see 9-4 in those plays last week. So add it all up, we got a revenge play, we got the preseason play, we got the situation. We're taking Hawaii as the schedule predictor game of the week, plus 1.5. All right, let's get to those red hot, and I mean red hot, quick hitters. 8-2 the last 2 weeks. The first one we're going to talk about is going to be what I call conference dominance. And I'm putting Notre Dame up here. Phil, Notre Dame's not in a conference. I don't know if you know that or not. Yeah, I do. Notre Dame just dominates the ACC. Now, you could go back and do the research. I could show you, but it'd take a while. But click here on the last 40 years' results. These actually have results all the way back to 1976. Every line on every game since 1976. Over here, we started putting in half times in 2008. You get that on every single game. And you, of course, get over-unders. Believe it or not, there were no over-unders on games until 2003. That's the first year it became. They started experimenting in 2001, 2002 on TV games, putting over-unders. They became a thing in 2003. Prior to that, there was no such thing as over-unders in college football. But anyway, that's all in here on every game. Now, you could go back and do the research and take a look at Notre Dame against every ACC team. Here's what you're going to find. Notre Dame against ACC teams is 18-3 against the spread. This is the conference they're aligned with right now, and they dominate those games. Also, if you look at Notre Dame in the last 10 years' results, how about as a home favorite? Here they are 8-4. They're 2-1 this year as a home favorite, so that makes them 10-5 as a home favorite. And then you take a look at NC State. I believe they struggle against ranked teams as an away dog. Look at this. Versus ranked teams right here. And I love this. We've got some of this in the magazine, but all of this is online. How do teams do as an underdog? How do they do in conference play? Conference favorite? Conference dog? How about versus ranked teams as an away dog? Guess what? It's at your fingertips. Look at this. They are 4-10 as an away dog against ranked teams. So it's a big technical play here for Notre Dame. And they also, let's go to the schedule predictor for a minute. I believe I have it on here. Let's see what else they got going for them. The AG, or the plus minus power ratings, has them by 29.8. And this schedule, 68. I could go back to the schedule and show you, but just click on the schedule thing if you're on Phil Steele Plus. But they have played Miami of Florida, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Boise. They have not played any big boy. East Carolina, Virginia is the best team they have played, maybe Duke. But none of those teams compare to Miami of Florida, Texas A&M, even Boise State out there. So Notre Dame's played the much tougher schedule. They've got that going for them. And the number here just refers to the difference. And green means it's a best bet. Yellow means it's almost a best bet. And, of course, you got the technical play out here. So add it all up, your quick hitter, conference dominance play, Notre Dame minus 22.5 over NC State. How about my special teams play of the week? All right, we're going to put USC. It's a big game. USC against Michigan. It's basically a playoff elimination game. I think the loser of this game is out of the mix for the playoffs. The winner's still very much alive. And Michigan's schedule sets up pretty good here. You look at this, at Michigan State, at Northwestern, at Maryland. Take care of business at home. They make the playoff. USC, same thing. The schedule's a little bit tougher at Notre Dame, at Oregon, but it's a talented team. Now, if you look at the, I believe I have this on the schedule predictor. Let's take a look there. Yes, it is. Michigan by 1 says that. The AGG says USC by 3.9. The revenge factors with USC, if you look at last year and follow this game along, USC's winning 24-20 as a favorite on the road, got the game won, and then this big play happened. If you're watching a game, you're thinking Michigan cannot drive down the field and score a touchdown. And then when you're watching the game happen, I love these. I go through it play-by-play of every single game every week. But this one I'm watching, and with Michigan, Southern California starts drive. Michigan gets this, so they got the touchdown. All right, right here, there was a big play. Mullins, right here. It's 3rd and 1. They're on their own 20. There's no way they're going to drive down. Their offense hasn't been doing nothing. Breaks off a 63-yard run to the 17. Then on 4th and goal at the 1, he gets a 1-yard TD run, and Michigan escapes against USC. USC's playing with legitimate revenge. And as mentioned, revenge factors do extremely well. Now, the schedule goes to Michigan. And as you see here, it's not a schedule predictor play. There's not a lot of things going with it. But adding into the fact that the AGG has USC by 3.9, the one thing the AGG doesn't factor in is the special teams. So let's click on the Phil Steele Plus menu for a minute and see if we can find a special teams advantage here. And we go to special teams ratings. Let's see what the heck special teams ratings are. Come on. There it is. Click on that. USC is number 1 special teams in the country right now in our ratings. This takes into this, all these factors are added up and put out there. And where's Michigan in this factor? Michigan, I believe, is in the 60s. There they are, number 66. So close game. Spread's only 2.5. So basically whoever wins the game is going to win. You've got the revenge motive, and you've got the fact that USC has got a much better special teams. Maybe that will be the deciding factor in this game. It's my special teams play of the week, USC minus 2.5 over Michigan. All right, I'm going to go to a matchup play, and it's a game that we had as a matchup play last week as well. And it's really interesting. This one actually, they say sometimes you don't get, you always complain about the games you don't get breaks on. Well, last week, Nebraska played Michigan State, and Scott Van Pelt, I guess, had Michigan State. He used it as a bad beat that Michigan State lost this game. They were plus 10.5, and it made the bad beat category on Scott Van Pelt's. I'm looking at the game a little bit closer. If you followed it, his bad beat was this. Nebraska led 38-21. He said the spread was 10.5, and Michigan State drove down and got a touchdown with 2:01 left. They went for 2 First of all, why go for 2 when it would have been a 10-point game with the extra point? But anyway, they went for 2 and failed, so lost the game by 11, and it made Scott Van Pelt's bad beats on ESPN. But Nebraska this week is taking on Maryland, and I should have put Maryland on the right because they are the home team, and I should have put Nebraska on the left. I had Maryland last week against Washington as a best bet. No, actually, the computer did. Let me think. Yep, the computer did. Had Maryland. And Maryland led that game. This is really interesting. They, of course, covered. The spread was never in question. They were plus 6.5. Maryland led the game 20-0. Now, here's the thing that you wonder. You're up 20-0. You're protecting a lead. What do you want to do in the fourth quarter? You want to run the football, shrink the clock a little bit. So what spurred Washington's comeback was the fact that Maryland evidently didn't feel confident in its run game. And I bring this up. You take a look at the fourth quarter. Maryland, pass, pass, pass. Maryland, pass, 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 pass. Here's a run. They ran the ball for 2 yards. Here's a pass. Maryland, pass, pass, pass. Maryland did not attempted one run in the fourth quarter, protecting a 20-3 lead. That tells me there's not a lot of confidence in the run game. So they have to throw the football. Well, guess what? I showed it to you last week. I'll show it to you again. You go to the Phil Steele Plus menu. Let's get there. Come on. Pass efficiency defense. And Nebraska's number 2 in the country. They've allowed 1 touchdown all year, 50.4%. And they are number 2 in the country. Arizona, number 1. Ole Miss, number 3. So it shows you your pass defense rankings. Now, these not only take into account these numbers, but they also take into account the opponent you played. So if you look at SMU, their numbers aren't overwhelming, but they've taken on really good opponents this year. So keep in mind that the pass efficiency defensive ratings that we have take into account the strength of opponent, not just the raw numbers. If you're playing option teams, you're going to have a really good number. If you're playing Heisman contenders at quarterback, you're going to have some bad numbers, but that evens it out a little bit. So anyway, you've got that factor going for you. It is my matchup game of the week. If Maryland doesn't feel confident in its run game, and look at the red here, and they've got to throw, they're taking out a really good pass defense. We're going to take Nebraska. And look at the AGG. Nebraska by 117.7, and Maryland's playing at 103 level. Did this make my schedule predictor? Let's see if it's up here. Nebraska against Maryland. Nope, didn't put it on there. But the AGG would be in favor of Nebraska as well. And then 106, that's Nebraska by 11. And the spread here is 6.5. So take Nebraska minus 6.5. Okay, let's get to your strength of wins, pain of losses play. And we're going to put Cincinnati on the right. We're going to put UCF on the left. Tough loss last week for UCF. Jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Looked like they were going to cover. At the end of the game against Kansas, they had a first and goal at the 1. Couldn't punch it in. They ended up losing by 7. I bring that up because that was the computer's only loss last week. Had UCF plus 4.5, and they lost by 7. But could easily, look at this, they had a 375, 356-yard edge, 21-15 first down edge, led 14-0, led 20-14 at the half. And as mentioned, at the end of the game, down by 7 with a chance to tie, force overtime easily. Go down to the end of the game here. We'll click on UCF. Where's your first and goal here? Well, they had a first and goal at the 1 at the end of the game. I don't have time to show you, so I want to get the tour rolling here. All right, so now we're going to put Cincinnati on the right. But before I get to Cincinnati, we're going to take a look at the strength of wins, pain of losses. Now, what this category does, and I find this interesting, strength of wins, pain of losses, here it is. You get credit for every FBS win of an opponent you beat. If they beat an FCS team, you don't get credit for that win. And for any game you lose, I don't care if it's FCS, FBS, you get credit for every loss that opponent had. Well, adding it up, right now, Texas A&M, number 1 in the country at 12-0. Indiana, 11-0. Illinois, 11-0. Let's find Cincinnati, though. Cincinnati's right here, 8-1. Their only loss was to Nebraska, which has 1 loss on the year. They've beaten teams that have beaten 8 FBS foes. If we take a look for UCF here, where is UCF? Central Florida. Here they are way down here, 2-6. So they have beaten teams this year. They've got 3 wins. These 3 teams have combined to win 2 FBS games. Meanwhile, they have lost to teams that have already lost 6 games this year. So they're down here at 25%. Cincinnati's up here at 89%. Then I believe I have some more factors on this besides that, but it is my strength of win, pain of losses. Check that out each week. It's really fascinating. And we do that. We update that each and every week right here on Phil Steele Plus. So put Cincinnati on the right. Cincinnati. And do I have it up here? I do not. So let's take a look at the AGG, 109, 103. That says they should win. Well, the AGG is close. Also keep in mind that last week with UCF, their quarterback, Tavon Jackson, got injured in the third quarter against Kansas. Cam Fancher came off the bench and replaced him. Another reason UCF didn't cover last week, or else the computer would have been 4-0 on best bets. But naturally, there are quarterback injury problems. But Curry Brown wasn't available. Jackson's been banged up. They might use Fancher. So you've got quarterback question marks. You've got the strength of wins, pain of losses. We're going with Cincinnati minus 10.5 over UCF. All right, how about a technical play? And we're going to put Troy on the left because they're the visitor. And we're going to put Texas State on the right. Do you know that Texas State in the last 2 years has lost 6 times outright as a favorite? And I think 4 of those as a double-digit favorite. They just can't handle the favorites role. They lost outright again this year to Arkansas State. So this is a team that, if we take a look at their home favorite record, they are 5-6, 12-16-1. If you take away this 4-3, that would be 8-13-1 over 9 years. And this year is a home favorite. They did cover that one, and I don't believe they covered Nichols. So 1-1 as a home favorite this year, but not a great favorite. Have lost 6 times outright as a favorite the last 2 years. Troy, on the other hand, if you take a look at their dog record, how do they do as an away dog? They are 19-13 as an away dog. And I believe they're 2-0 this year. They already went into Clemson and led 16-3 at the half, and they beat Buffalo outright. So they are 21-13 as an away dog. Final factor here, let's look at the series. Troy had won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in a row. And once again, if this color is green, that means the team won the game. This team won the game straight up. If it is red, that means they lost straight up. So you don't have to even look at the score. You could just see 1, 2, 3, 10 straight wins, and they lost last year. So, and last year they were a big dog in that game. And then this out here, the number means if it's green, they covered. If it's red, they did not cover. So keep that in mind when you're using the last 28 years matchups. So you got a bad home favorite, good away dog. Series history says Troy is 10-1 straight up in it. We're going to take Troy +9, and with Texas State's history of dropping 6 games outright as a favorite the last 2 years, money line might be a good play on there as well. Last one we're going to wrap it up with for your quick hitters is the computer wanted to use but wouldn't let it play, and that is this one, San Diego State against Nevada. You can see the computer's got San Diego State winning 25-11. They're a 7-point favorite in this game. Enough said, right? 25-11. Don't think I made it on the predictor. But the computer said, hey, I'd like to use this play as one of my best bets this week. It's got 4 more big best bets this week. I said, nope, not going to allow it. Last year it had a great record. This year on the tour, I think it's 2-3 for the 5 that we've used. So it's not doing great on the tour. The computer wanted to use play. Last year was phenomenal. I believe it was 6-2. But this week it's San Diego State. This is an example of part of the page that you get with inside the press box. You get the computer's projected run, pass, yards, and score of the game. You get my complete write-up on the game as you see over here. I analyze everything about the game. I give you my projected score. I agree. I have San Diego State in the game. Computer's got them 25-11. I got them 26-13. I just wouldn't let the computer put out 5 best bets this week. I said, limit it to 4, buddy. Give me your top 4. Put it up on press box, and that's what he did. And the computer's play is San Diego State. All right, we do have an NFL play for you, so let's go to the NFL page. I've got some interesting things to show you. I don't follow the NFL. You know that. I don't even watch the games on Sunday. Sunday, I'm watching replays of the college games, trying to go through the play-by-play of every single college game. I don't have time to follow all that stuff. We're going to put Indianapolis over here. Now, from what I understand, Arizona, and I do watch ESPN on Monday morning, and just for I don't watch the whole thing, but I did see that Arizona had a really tough loss last week. They led 21-6. They fumbled going into the end zone, and then they had an interception, and they fumbled the interception, got kicked in the end zone for just a myriad of problems. But I still like Indianapolis, even though Arizona's off a misleading final last week. And here's the reasons why. First of all, you look at the AGG, and the AGG has got them almost by 10 points. Take a little break there. Almost by 10 points. Add in the home field edge. The AGG likes them. So that's one factor they got going for them. How do the Colts play at home? How are they as a home favorite? Well, look at this. These are available on every NFL team. I haven't showed you these, but you got the last 10 years spread results. This is straight up. This is ATS, home favorite, home dog, way favorite dog. You want to know the NFL records? They're right there. How about how do teams do as a favorite? How do they do as a dog? How do they do versus their division, non-division? How about when they, these factors here, this is what they have done the previous week. If they had won by 14 the previous week, what do they do the next week? If they lost by 14 the previous week, what do they do the next week? After a win as a dog, after a loss as a favorite, all these factors on every single team over the last 10 years. I thought there was totals on here, but I don't see it. Totals, it says over-under records. Over-unders, I don't see it. Okay, I'll have to figure that out. I'll ask Todd about that. But anyway, we've got that. You've got the last 20 years logs for every NFL team if you want to see what an NFL team did. And once again, this gives you the coaches like the college does. Gives you all of these results. We'll have 2024 up there pretty soon for you as well. They're in the NFL magazine, which is just $15 on philsteele.com. It's a digital magazine, 4 full pages on every NFL team. So anyway, you got the AGG working for you. Look at the Colts at home. Their home AGG is 95.6. When you put them on the road, it's only 83.9. So they play much better at home in this one. And in the NFL, if you click on the Phil Steele Plus menu, you can come here. And Todd just added the last 4 weeks out here. Click on NFL information. You can get the logs for this year. They are updated right now. So if you want to get who's spread records for every single team, you can see Indianapolis's beat Miami at home, beat Denver at home. So that's 2 more home favorite wins. Looks like the Las Vegas game is not updated yet. That should get updated. Looks like it was last update. It says updated 10-1. I don't know why the Las Vegas game's not in there. But we'll have that updated for you by the time you watch this tour. Anyway, come back here to the NFL. You also get, let's get back to the NFL. There we go. NFL. Average game grades. So Detroit's at the top. Remember, we used one last week. We had Detroit against Cincinnati at the top, at the bottom. Average game grades are great. And for years, our NFL average game grades were not good. I have to admit, the formula was wrong. 2 years ago, I tinkered with it, and now they're perfect. I mean, the average game grades are just like the college game grades. But this week, Todd even added the last 4 weeks. Use this each week. You don't have to go and look at each team side by side. Look at the team at the top, look at the team at the bottom. And as you get more games, like when you get to 8 games, it basically eliminates half the season that was played and only talks about the last 4 games. That's the beautiful thing about the average game grades. But that'll be up here each and every week under the NFL section. And also, let's take a look at NFL. What do we got? We got NFL strength of wins, pain of losses. And go down to the bottom here. San Francisco's number 1 at 9-1. Philly's 11-2. The Jets have not beaten a team that has got a win this year. Same thing with Miami. It gives you the strength of wins, pain of losses. You also get here the yards per game. Let's click on that. That's available. That is average game grade. Offense and defense versus opponent average. This surprised me when I looked at this. The Atlanta Falcons, and I'm like, I don't follow the NFL, but I didn't even know Atlanta was a team. It was doing well. Let's take a look at Atlanta. How are they up there? And when you click on Atlanta, they are a 2-2 team, right? So they're not very good. But look at this. They're averaging 108 above what their opponents allow. And their defense, or I should say 58 above what their opponents allow. Their defense is holding opponents to 108 yards per game below what they average. Look at this defense, 260, 198, 224, 294. That's pretty damn good. So they are number 1 in that category. Maybe keep an eye on these Falcons. They may be better than you think. And then here's the team at the bottom, Cincinnati, which just got Joe Flacco from Cleveland. Pittsburgh's down here. Look at this, minus 138.9. Cleveland is plus 22.9. Isn't Pittsburgh favored by 5.5 this week? Huh. And I think when you look at the AGG as well, Cleveland comes up a good play there. But this week's play in the NFL, I just want to pick Cleveland every week. So we're going to pick Indianapolis, minus 7 over Arizona. I believe the Cleveland game last week, Cleveland was covering the majority of the game and then ended up giving up a touchdown late, and they were plus 3.5 and lost by 4, which meant the NFL plays here on the tour went 1-1. So there you go. An NFL play, Indianapolis, minus 7 over Arizona. Don't forget, the Battle is on deal right now. 53% off PressBox, and you get Phil Steele Plus for free when you sign up for that. So it's really a tremendous deal. And I'd like to take this time to thank you for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour with me this week. I'll be back with you next week with more free plays, and thank you very much.